The coffee cup shattered against the marble floor, and in that single sharp sound, 40 years of quiet dignity nearly broke along with it. Margaret Holloway did not flinch. She simply lowered her mop, watched the dark liquid spread across the lobby tiles she had polished only an hour before, and waited for the storm to pass. "Do you know how much that suit cost?" thundered Victor Ashford, CEO of Ashford Dynamics, glaring down at the brown stain now creeping toward his Italian leather shoes. "You clumsy old woman, you nearly ruined it. Honestly, I don't know why we keep people like you around. Pick it up before someone important sees this mess." The lobby fell silent. Employees hurried past with their eyes fixed on their phones, pretending not to hear, the way people do when cruelty happens in daylight and no one wants to be the one who speaks up. Margaret knelt down, her knees aching with the kind of pain that came from 31 years of scrubbing floors, and began gathering the broken porcelain with her bare hands, saying nothing at all. If you believe kindness deserves a second chance, and that hope has a way of finding even the most broken hearts, give this video a like, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs it today, and subscribe to Hope and Wisdom for more stories like this one. Margaret had worked in that building since it was nothing more than a modest 3-story office with a leaking roof. She had watched it grow into a glass tower of 40 floors, had watched dozens of executives come and go, had watched a company rise from nothing into an empire. Through all of it, she had remained invisible, the woman who arrived before sunrise and left after the last light in the building went dark, the woman whose name most employees never bothered to learn. She had raised 2 children alone after her husband passed, working nights so she could see them off to school in the mornings, and she had never once complained, because complaining was a luxury she could not afford. Victor Ashford, on the other hand, had built his reputation on ruthlessness. He measured people by their usefulness and their titles, and to him, Margaret was simply part of the furniture, something that kept the building clean and otherwise did not matter. He did not know her name. He did not know that her late husband, Thomas Holloway, had once worked construction on the very foundation of this building, pouring concrete into the ground with his own 2 hands during the company's earliest and most desperate days, back when the founder could barely make payroll. He did not know that Margaret had turned down better-paying jobs elsewhere because she had promised her husband, before cancer took him, that she would watch over the building he helped create, as though some piece of him remained inside its walls. That afternoon, as Margaret quietly cleaned up the shattered cup, an elderly man stepped out of the private elevator that few employees ever saw used. He wore a simple gray coat, walked with a cane, and carried himself with the unhurried calm of someone who no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. This was Walter Ashford, Victor's grandfather, and the founder of the entire company, though he had stepped back from daily operations years ago and rarely visited anymore. Walter's eyes moved from the broken porcelain to his grandson's flushed, irritated face, and then to Margaret, still kneeling on the floor. Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of recognition, then disbelief, then something close to grief. He walked forward slowly and knelt down beside her, ignoring the gasps rippling through the lobby, and gently placed his hand over hers to stop her from picking up the last piece of glass. "Margaret," he said softly, "it has been a long time." The room seemed to hold its breath. Victor stared at his grandfather kneeling on the floor beside the janitor he had just humiliated, utterly confused. Walter rose slowly and turned to face his grandson, his voice steady but heavy with disappointment. "This woman's husband built the foundation this company stands on when we had nothing, when I could not pay him for 3 months and he stayed anyway because he believed in what we were building. When he died, I promised him I would look after his family. Margaret refused every job I offered her that would have taken her out of this building, because she said she wanted to stay close to the place Thomas gave his hands to. She has mopped these floors for 31 years, not because she had no other choice, but because she made a promise to a man she loved, and to me." Victor's face drained of color. The confidence that had filled his voice moments earlier evaporated entirely, replaced by the hollow silence of a man realizing he had humiliated someone whose sacrifice was the very reason he had a company to run at all. He looked at Margaret, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in the years they had shared the same building, and saw not an old woman with a mop, but a person who had carried more quiet strength and loyalty than he had ever been asked to carry in his life. He knelt down beside her, his voice trembling as he apologized, the words coming out clumsy and raw because he had never truly apologized to anyone before. Margaret looked at him, her eyes tired but gentle, and told him that everyone deserved a chance to become better than the worst moment anyone had witnessed of them. She did not ask for anything, not an apology, not recognition, not even kindness in return. She simply asked that he remember, the next time he looked at someone in a uniform, that he could not see the whole of their story from the outside. In the weeks that followed, Victor changed in ways no one expected. He learned the names of every person who cleaned, cooked, and guarded the building he worked in. He established a scholarship in Thomas Holloway's name for the children of employees, and he personally visited Margaret every week, not out of guilt, but because he had come to genuinely respect her. If this story moved you even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that kindness always finds its way back. And before you go, please take a second to comment the word "grateful" below, just to let us know this story reached you. Margaret never asked for recognition, and she never got a grand reward, but she got something better, a young man who finally understood that dignity is not measured by title or wealth, but by how we treat those the world has taught us to overlook. And sometimes, that lesson, however painfully learned, is the truth that leaves us speechless.